All right, first and foremost, give all praise to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and his son Hamashiach, who some call Yahweh, Yehoshua, Yeshua, but we mostly know as Jesus Christ. All right, we want to get into the 7 wives. What is the text really saying? 7 wives, 1 man. What is this text really saying? But we have to understand some things first. All right, I know we've been going in, we've been having fun with the speculation and going in about and we gonna get back to it, but we gotta take a break and eat some bitter herbs, okay, and get into the text and get into some foundational understandings that we have to have when reading the text. A lot of this stuff was skipped over. I've been dialoguing with a good brother about, just some principle things that have been skipped over, that's harboring, or not harboring, but that's hindering our understanding because we don't understand these things first. So I'm gonna share my screen here. Hold on. All right. Okay, before we go there, though, we're going to talk about hyperboles. What is a hyperbole? What is a hyperbole? All right, hyperbole is the use of exaggeration as a rhetorical device or figure of speech. Hyperbolic language is a figure of speech and literary device that creates heightened effect through deliberate exaggeration. Hyperbolic statements are not meant to be taken literally, but emphasizes a point, add humor, or create irony. So you have a lot of hyperbolical language, or a lot of hyperbole within the biblical text that we need to know about. This is from some article, y'all. I ain't gonna flex. I don't know where this thing from. Ad D Gorham Ministries. But it's some things that I seen here that I do agree with. Just scanning through this thing. It says an idiom and idioms. What is idioms? An idiom is probably the most difficult literature type to interpret because it is intended meaning cannot be deduced from the literal meaning of the author's word, but refers to a figurative meaning known only by common use. So there are some basically, listen, these common expressions sometimes referred to as slang. There's a lot of slang in the Bible that was culturally understood back then. That's why we confuse the whole I am black. It's a figure of speech, just like the like we use today. I'm feeling blue. I'm feeling a little blue. The I am black also has it's kind of a slang for, I'm in mourning. Just like the I am blue or I'm feeling blue is kind of deals with you're a little sad, you're a little down, you're a little depressed. All right. Are you literally blue? No. And I'm not saying that the people weren't of color. I'm not saying that the people weren't of color. Man, he's saying that the people weren't of what, that cognitive dissonance start kicking in. A lot of y'all done already cut off. So I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying that a lot of those verses that we're using, they're not good verses to use. That verse is actually talking about mourning. All those verses is talking about I am black. Like the Acts 13 is a little different, but I don't want to go. The Acts 13 pretty much is telling this man, that this is a black man. But I don't want to get off into no identity doctrine right now. And that was one of the things too, my brother was saying, I may deal with that in another time, man, that the identity may need to be taught last. We need to learn some foundational things in the text first, Then we glean, then we teach and show the identity. Because the identity puffeth up. It makes one prideful, and it's hard to get that pride off of individuals once that has happened. Talk about hyperbole. So you have idioms, which is slang. You know, hey man, it's raining cats and dogs. We'll use that today. But somebody, they have speech like that in the text that sometimes we're taking it literal. And it's just like if somebody found our book today and I wrote in there, man, it was raining cats and dogs that day. Joker 2,000 years later say, hey man, you know, this brother Phineas was writing that, hey, it was raining cats and dogs. Like the Lord had brought down cats and dogs coming down on the ground. All right. So you have to understand that. Also, they use an example here of Leah and Rachel. I don't want to get into it because I didn't read it, so I don't know where it's gonna go. The Bible's frequent use of hyperbole or exaggeration has presented some difficulty for many Bible readers. Some associate exaggeration in the Bible with inexactness or even downright falsehood. What it's saying there, what is this writer is saying here, is that some people, you know, there are some prophecies, it don't happen exactly the way it said it's gonna happen. All right, it does happen, but because it was a little exaggerated, you know, it didn't happen fully. All these people didn't die. We see some of the people living further on, you know. All the people weren't taken into captivity. We see some that were still left. It's an exaggeration. But that doesn't mean, but people will use that to try to discredit the Bible and try to discredit that prophecy didn't happen. So we have to have an understanding about hyperboles and idioms, because these things can, if we're taking everything literal, when we see certain things, we're not going to be able to, you know, truly identify these things. Sometimes too, you know, even with the Deuteronomy 28, there's some hyperbole in that also. And sometimes if you're trying to identify, again, I don't want to get into the identity, but if you're trying to identify Israel and you're trying to use every verse in Deuteronomy 28:15, you want to use every verse in Deuteronomy 28:15 and down and say, hey man, we identify with every one of these things fit, and that's not in common. That's not really true. But that doesn't mean it doesn't fit us today. It's just some of the stuff is a little exaggerated, but we know that, you know, we did receive a captivity. We were, you know, we are in a position that we have to get everything from our oppressors and so forth, and you know, so there are some things that do fit, but if you're trying to go verse for verse on that, you may run into some problems. And if you're saying and say, hey man, we fit everyone, and then you say that to somebody and they find one that you don't fit, then them folks are going to try to discredit that, or discredit your stance that you're the people. So be careful with that. There was an example. Well, here, there are a few principles we can apply to enable us to recognize when hyperbole is being used. We already mentioned the first and most obvious, whenever the statement is literally impossible. All right. Another indication of possible hyperbole is when the writer's statement and I don't know, you know, you just have to be careful with that, even with that. You know, but that it can be an indicator. Another indication of possible hyperbole is when the writer's statement in the passage conflicts with the words of actions elsewhere. All right, and so a lot of times we see things that may conflict a little bit, and then Well, the Bible ain't got no contradiction. And sometimes things do sound a little, and he's going to have an example here. Watch this. Jesus said, if anyone comes to me and does not hate father and mother and wife and the children, brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. This clearly conflicts with Jesus' teachings in Mark 17 and 10:19, where he affirms Moses' statement to honor your father and mother. And so this is kind of a hyperbole. I can see that being hyperbole. And sometimes we teach that, like, hey man, it ain't really hate. You're not really saying hate, and we don't really know how to explain it, but it's just exaggerated speech, man. You can't put these people before me. All right, you can't put these people before me. So that's how you explain that. It's just hyperbolic language. It's just hyperbole. It's exaggerated speech. All scriptures are in perfect harmony. Therefore, if the literal sense of the passage conflicts with the teachings of either the Old or the New Testament, we should pause and consider whether the passage contains hyperbole. Jesus saw his ethical teachings as being consistent with any of the fulfillments of those in the Old Testament. We can also suspect hyperbole is another inspired, if another inspired biblical writer interprets the passage in a non-literal manner, or if his literal fulfillment of the passage would not achieve what the speaker intended. That's what I was talking about. You can kind of go back, we'll see, just like in Baruch, he said, hey man, we in our captivity when they went to Babylon. This is part of the curses. I want to say Baruch 4. But he clearly states that, man, we have hit the curses. And what curses? Probably Deuteronomy 28, Leviticus 26. And he's identifying with that. But did that look exactly like 15 through 28? Did all of those things happen? Probably not, but it's still identified with that because that writer understood that was hyperbolic language. It didn't have to be exactly like that, but it has to be similar. But in exactness, you can mess around if it's hyperbole. And I'm saying all of that to say we need to understand that before we get here to Isaiah chapter 3. And really, we're trying to get to verse 1, but we have to understand this now. It says, God will remove the leader, subtitle. Verse 1, it says, for behold, the Lord of hosts doeth take away from Jerusalem and from Judah the staff, the whole stay of bread and the whole stay of water. The mighty men and the men of war, the judge and the prophet and the prudent and the ancient. All right, he's saying he's taking these things away. The captain of 50, the honorable men and the counselor and the cunning artificer and the eloquent orator. And I will give children to be their princes, and babes shall rule over them. And we was talking about that, what was that sister name? Adaliah, and her son being 7 years old, ruling over Israel. And the people shall be oppressed, everyone by another, and everyone by his neighbor. The child shall behave himself proudly against the ancient, and the base against the honorable. And again, first you have to understand the original context, and then you can apply it and modernize it to today's time. That that we're seeing things like this today, where the child is proud and don't want to take the advice of the parents. They think they know more than the parents. And it didn't start today. It didn't start in this time. This was going on even back then. But we can still apply these things today because these things are truly happening. The base against the honorable. When a man shall take hold of his brother, when a man should take hold of his brother of the house of his father, saying, thou hast clothing, be thou our ruler, and let this ruin be under thy hand. Now he's saying that, a brother will cling to another brother and make him the leader just because he got a shirt on his back, just because he got a coat. Well, hey man, you know what? You need to be the ruler, and you need to be the ruler of this, you know, and let this ruin. Basically, calling the land trash. It's just totally destroyed. Let this ruin be under thy hand. You govern this trash. In that day shall he swear, saying, I will not be an healer. For my house is neither bread or nor clothing. Make me not a ruler of the people. He gonna be like, nah, I don't want to do that. I ain't got nothing either. I ain't finna heal nothing. I ain't finna rule over nothing. I ain't finna try to build this thing back up. I got my own problem. For Jerusalem is ruined and Judah is fallen, because their tongue and their doings are against the Lord, to provoke their eyes, to provoke the eyes of his glory. Plus, we need to understand, what is this judgment? Who is this judgment on? Talking about Jerusalem and Judah. In the day shall he swear, saying, I will not be, I'm sorry. The show of their countenance doeth witness against them, and they declare their sin as Sodom. They hid it not. Woe unto their soul, for they have rewarded evil unto themselves. All right, they just out here, you know, sinning proudly. Say ye to the righteous that if it shall be well, say ye to the righteous that it shall be well with him, for they shall eat of the fruit of their doing. So he's still securing the righteous. Woe unto the wicked, it shall be ill with him, for the reward of his hand shall be given him. As for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. O my people, they which lead thee, cause thee to err, and destroy the way of thy paths. And we dealing with that today. You know, the children are their oppressors. You know, they are the rulers. The children are ruling over. And I used to use this at camp all the time, you know, that these kids are taking over these houses, that we're scared to correct the children, so forth. But this is a prophecy about a time that's going to be just horrendous for Jerusalem, and the leader shall be removed out of the land. Currently today, we already gone. Like, we've been gone. We've been gone. You know, we've been so gone, we can't even recall when we was there. We have no idea what it was like to be in that land during that time. We can only, you know, imagine and speculate from what little information we get from the text, but I'm sure it doesn't, you know, I'm sure that, you know, it'll be, if we did have a time machine and we could go back, it'll be much more, the stench probably from, you know, I just imagine that stench from all of those sacrifices being made. You talk thousands, the text talking about thousands, hundreds of thousands of animals being slaughtered. Anyway, no refrigeration. The Lord standeth up to plead, and standeth to judge the people. The Lord will enter into judgment with the ancients of his people, the princes thereof. For you have eaten up the vineyard. The spoil of the poor is in your houses. All right. What mean ye that ye beat my people to pieces? Who are beating the people to pieces? We doing it to ourselves. And you'll see that in the text. That's kind of an idiom. That's kind of a slang. You know, I'll take this rod of iron and beat them to pieces. I will break those nations into pieces. We see here Israel is breaking the poor into pieces, grinding the faces of the poor, saith the Lord. Moreover, the Lord saith, because the daughters of Zion, I was getting into the, you know, the Judah's women denounced. The daughters of Zion are haughty and walk with stretched forth necks and wanton eyes, walking and mincing as they go, making the twinkling of the feet. Therefore, I will smite the crown of the head of the daughters of Zion, and the Lord will discover their inner parts, their secret parts. I'm sorry. And again, you done seen brothers apply this and try to say, man, our women can't grow no hair. Again, but this is hyperbole. This is exaggerated. This is, man, I'm a beat your head to the white meat. I'm a slap the taste out your mouth. It's exaggerated. I'm going to beat you till you're black and blue. It's exaggerated. We don't really want to do that. Man, I'm going to knock you into tomorrow. I'm going to slap you into next week. And jokers will be reading that, man. Listen, man, that brother got slapped into the next week. Jokers back then used to can slap somebody to the next week. Joker be sitting up there working, somebody slap them, bow. And they done flew into the next week. They done messed around and got 2 checks. On Friday they got paid. Joker slapped him into the next week and he got paid again. It was crazy. Come on, y'all. In that day, the Lord will take away the bravery of their twinkling ornaments about their feet and cows and their round tires like the moon, the chains and the bracelets and the mufflers, the bonnets, the ornaments of the legs, the headbands, the tablets, the earrings, the rings, the nose rings, the changeable suits of apparel, the mantles, the wimples, the crisping pins. You see, all this stuff our sisters used to wear. Now, he's describing what they had on. He's saying he's going to remove these things, but that don't mean that that's a law for us that our sisters can't wear these things. All right, this isn't a prescription. This is something being described. And in this judgment, I'm going to take these things away. But brothers will use this and say, see, he took that stuff up off of you because you was in sin wearing that. That's not what's happening here. The glasses, the fine linen, like our sister can't wear fine linen. They can't have different clothes to wear. This is his judgment. So he's going to strip them of those things. And fine linen and the hoods and the veils. And our sisters wore hoods and they wore veils. All right, they probably was covered up like a lot of the Muslim women today. Is it a prescribed? Is it a law? Is this a law here that our women have to be veiled and have on a hood and have their head covered and have a veil on? Is that the law? No, but we see that they had these things. They because the Lord said he'll strip them away from these things. These are probably things that they value, but this ain't a law that say she has to wear a veil. But she should have her head covered. I feel what Paul says in 1 Corinthians 11 about the head cover. You should have your head covered when these texts coming out. But that's not a law. It's just things being prescribed in the text. You got to know the difference. You got to know hyperboles. You got to know idioms, so forth. And it shall come to pass that instead of sweet smell, there shall be stink. And instead of a girdle of rent, and instead of a well-set hair, baldness. And instead of a stomacher, girding of sackcloth, and burning instead of beauty. And so he's saying he's going to do these things to these women. And you saying that, hey man, these the women we want to deal with. And so you saying that our women are the smelliest today? That our women down there just stink more than any other women? Right? That we will have well set. There's a lot of women, our women have well set hair. It's just because of us following the beauty standards set by the world. We want our hair straightened. We want to put these wigs on our head. I did a video about that. It did pretty good. about women destroying themselves, putting that stuff on their hair, man. And wasting a lot of time and a lot of money. How did that industry is built, man? Of just billions and billions of dollars spent on this stuff. But anyway, that's for me. That's why that baldness is happening. But if y'all want to apply, hey, you can apply. But you got to apply also that they stink. That monkey is funky. And this is a judgment that he's taking from them. Thy men shall fall by the sword. This is also thy men and thy mighty in war. All your men gonna be gone. Your men and your mighty men of war. And we seen up front that the leadership being removed. All right, and all of those men, them captains of 50, all of those valiant men and respectable and reverence men, they gone. He's saying he's stripping them of that. He's destroying them of that. And her gate shall lament and mourn. She being desolate shall sit upon the ground. Now the context is going to start to switch, but it's going to conclude in verse 4. He says, and in that day 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name to take away our reproach. Again, this is hyperbole. This is exaggerated speech. And in that day shall a woman take hold of one man, because there ain't gonna be no man. I'm gonna wipe out all of these men. They gonna have to look and try to find a man. I'm gonna destroy them so bad. All right, and again, these 7 women are, if we taking this literal, these 7 women are the bald head ones with the stench, with the funky monkey. All right, all the respectable men are gone. Jokers is made leaders just because they have a coat on. All right, this is not talking about the kingdom. All right, we will eat our own bread, wear our own apparel, meaning these women too have their own, they got their own, they don't need you to provide for them. These women here, and again, it's hyperbole. These women here don't need you to provide nothing for them. They have their own food, they have their own clothes. They need you to take that reproach off of them, because they're not able to have children. That reproach there is, culturally, if a woman did not provide her husband with a son, she was a reproach. And that's why you see in the text many women praying to the Lord for them to have a son. That was Samuel, his wife, praying to the Lord. Not his wife, but his mother, praying to the Lord, and then she ends up giving Samuel to the Lord. What's the other brother name in Judges, man? I can't believe it's slipping my brain right now. And when I say it, y'all go, Samson. Samson's mother also prayed to have a child, to have a son. We can. There's some speculation, some fluff. Even why the woman at the well, while she was at the well at that particular time, because culturally they go to the well earlier in the morning. First thing. That's the first thing you got to do is get that well water. But it's a lot of chit chat at that well with all these women going to that well. It's a lot of chit chat. Jokers thought you were cursed. A lot of women thought you were cursed if you couldn't have children. They wanted to stay away from you, and they thought you were, that if that thing may jump on them. So you were the talk of the town. And men probably, again, this is fluff. This just, don't be write this down like, man, Brother Phoenix was teaching that the reason the woman had all them husbands was because she couldn't have kids. But that is one of the things people speculate, that she was in and out of these marriages because she wasn't having children with these individuals. So just take away that reproach. We're saying all that to say that that reproach there, taking away that reproach was serious for them, and them not being able to have kids was, that was something that also that he's, the Most High's using to say, I'm gonna take that away from you. You ain't even gonna, you gonna be trying to search for it. You're gonna be begging to take that reproach away. So this says in, hey, kingdom connotation, so forth. And then right here, it goes into restoration of Israel. All right, we go into the restoration. All right, in that day shall the branch of the Lord be beautiful and glorious, and the fruit of the earth shall be excellent, comely for them that are escaped of Israel. And it shall come to pass that he that is left in Zion, all right, he that remaineth in Jerusalem shall be called holy, even everyone that is written among the living in Jerusalem. All right, when the Lord shall have washed away the filth of the daughters of Zion, and shall have purged the blood of Jerusalem from the midst thereof by the spirit of judgment and the spirit of burning. And the Lord will create upon every dwelling place of Mount Zion, and upon her assemblies, a cloud and a smoke by day, a shining of a flame fire by night. And upon the glory shall be a defense, and there shall be a tabernacle for a shadow in the daytime from the heat, and from a place of refuge, and for a covert from the storm and from the rain. This part here goes into restoration. You can put some I understand why people put kingdom connotation on that. And it, to an extent, it is because it's a restoration of Israel. But this, for me, this is not new Jerusalem, new Jerusalem, new heaven, new Jerusalem. This is a restoration of Jerusalem, and not necessary. So it's a kingdom connotation, but not the kingdom connotation, if that makes sense. Maybe millennial reign, you can maybe put that in there. But I don't see anything that will bring millennial reign, speaking of millennial reignish either. This is just a restoration of Israel. And you can say, depending on where we put in this timeline, after they're returning back to the land, was it beautiful? And again, all of this is hyperbole also. They returned back to the land, but I don't know how beautiful and glorious it was. But this can be reapplied. We return back to the land. Let's see here, that verse 4, when the Lord shall have washed away the filth of the daughters of Zion, and shall purge the blood of Jerusalem from the midst thereof by the spirit of judgment and by the spirit of burning. Maybe that could be, I have to look into it. But maybe that could be kingdom connotation. Maybe that could be after, like when we saying the spirit of judgment, or is this when the books are open? The spirit of burning, is this when that fire purging? But we have stuff like is that the lake of fire that we talking about, the spirit of burning? But you have things like in the text where it says, I will purge them with a fire, or even baptizing them with fire, so you'll have to look into that. Well, I'll have to look into that before I could really break this down. But I'm not just gonna jump into thinking that this is kingdom connotation. I'm thinking this is hyperbolic language, and in that that this is just us, a restoration of the kingdom of more just more decisively Judah. This is a judgment on Judah and Jerusalem. But I end with that. What do y'all think? Do y'all think this is this last, like, I listen, I'm not even this here. This here is still judgment. This here is restoration. Y'all can hit the comments if y'all think that has kingdom connotation to it, and why do you think it has kingdom connotation to it. We may discuss it on another, I do a little more research, we'll discuss it on another vid. But with that, I pray this thing was edifying. I pray we understand and start dealing with some of these idioms, some of this slang, some of these metaphors, some of this hyperbolic language, this poetic speech, so that we're not taking everything so literal, and maybe getting ourselves caught up in some things and losing some of the sheep, because things aren't exactly the way some of these things are expressed in some of these prophecies when we see them being fulfilled. With that, I say shalom. Y'all be blessed.